This video is all about benchmarks. A benchmark is the term that is used when you round a number to the nearest 10 or the nearest 100 or the nearest 1,000. So today we're going to talk about rounding numbers to the nearest 10, 100, or 1,000. When rounding to the nearest 10, I have to keep in mind that the number 10 has 1 0, so my answers should always have 1 0. So for example, if I have a number like 46, what I want to do is I want to identify my tens place value. In this case, it's a 4. And I look immediately to the right. So I look over immediately to the right and I have a 6. If the number is a 5 or higher, a 5, 6, 7, 8, or 9, I'm going to round this number up. So that means that my tens place value goes up. So instead of a 4, the next one up is a 5. And then the 6 becomes a 0 because I've rounded up. And notice that the number 50 has 1 0, just like the number 10 has 1 0. So when you round to the nearest 10, you should always have at least 1 0 in your number. Let's do another example. If I have the number 638, and I'm going to round it to the nearest 10, remember that the 10 has 1 0, so I should have 1 0 in my answer, or at least 1 0. So 638, I'm going to look to my tens place value because I'm rounding to the nearest 10. And it's a 3. Now I look immediately over to the right and I see I have an 8. And if my number is, remember, a 5 or higher, I round up. In this case, the number to the right of my tens place value is an 8. So I'm going to round it up. So that means that I round the 3 up to a 4, and my 8 will become a 0. But I'm not quite done because 638 rounded to the nearest 10 isn't just 40. I can't forget the numbers that come in front of my tens place value. So I have to have a 6 there. So there is how you round to the nearest 10. Another example for nearest 10. If you have a number like 233, now I look to my tens place value, and it's a 3. And immediately to the right, I look and I have a 3. And if that number right here is a 4 or lower, a 4, 3, 2, 1, I round down. And by rounding down, what that means is that my tens place value that's at a 3 right now would stay at a 3. This number here would go down to a 0. And I can't forget about my numbers in the front. So I put 2 there. So 233 rounded to the nearest 10 is 230. Remember, nearest 10, there's 1 0 in the 10, so I should have 1 0 in my answer. Now we're going to talk about rounding to the nearest 100. Now in the number 100, how many zeros do you see? I hope you see 2 of them, because that's how many there are. So in each number that we round to the nearest 100, we should have at least 2 zeros. Here's an example. The number 682. Now that I'm rounding to the nearest 100, I have to find my hundreds place value. Here it is. It's a 6. And then I look immediately to the right. And if that number to the right is 5 or higher, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, I round up. So because this is an 8, I'm going to round up. So what that means is that the 6 becomes a 7. And the 8 and the 2 become zeros because I need 2 zeros in my answer, just like the number 100 has 2 zeros. Let's do another example. The number 32,429. Well, if I'm rounding to the nearest hundred, I find my hundreds place value. There it is. And I look immediately to the right. And I have a 2. So if I have, remember, a 4 or lower, a 4, 3, 2, 1, I round down. And what that means is that the 4 is going to stay a 4, but the 2 and the 9 become zeros because the number 100 has 2 zeros in it. And I need 2 zeros in my answer. But that's not quite right. I'm not done yet. Am I missing something? You bet. I'm missing the 32. I can't forget about the numbers in front of the 4. So 32,429 rounded to the nearest hundred becomes 32,400. Let's do one more example. 4,971. Here's my hundreds place value, and I look to the right, and it's a 7. So that means I'm going to be rounding up. So the 9, what comes after 9? You're right, that would be 10. But I can't write 10 and then 7 and then 1 and then drop my 4 down. That doesn't look very good, does it? No, it doesn't. So what I need to do, I kind of just messed everything up there, but that's okay. What I need to do is take that number that I had again, 4,971, and I have my 9, and the 7 is to the right, so I'm rounding up. So after 9 comes 10. But in this case, after 9 comes 10, so I put the 0 here, and I carry the 1. Did you see that? And the 4 and the 1 make 5. And then these two numbers turn into zeros, and there I have it, 5,000. So that's a special example. When you round to the nearest 1,000, it's the same as nearest 10 or 100, except in this case, my answer is going to have at least 3 zeros. So here's an example. If I have a number like 6,729, I'm rounding to the nearest 1,000, so I find my thousands place value, and I look immediately to the right, and it's a 7. So in this case, am I going to round up or down? I hope you said up. We're going to round up. So the 6 becomes a 7, and then I add in those 3 zeros because rounding to the nearest 1,000 has 3 zeros, and that's how we do it. Let's do one more example. If I had a number like 418,251, and I'm rounding to the nearest 1,000, I look at my thousands place value, it's an 8. And I look immediately to the right, and it's a 2, so I'm going to be rounding down. So that means that the 8 actually stays the same, it doesn't change, but the 2, 5, and 1 would all become zeros, because rounding to the nearest 1,000 means you should have at least 3 zeros in your answer at the end of the number. But I'm not quite done yet. I'm still missing something. And I'm missing those numbers in front of the 8. So there you have it. 418,251 rounded to the nearest 1,000 becomes 418,000. And that is called benchmarks.